Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always ready.
Awesome! So today we're taking a trip to Nigeria.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we've got this stack of articles from all over the place. Nigeria's top news sources.
Sounds like a good mix.
It is! Politics, economics, social issues, even some stuff about the holidays coming up.
Wow, little bit of everything.
Right. And I'm really excited to unpack all of this with you.
Me too.
I always learn so much from these conversations.
Well, hopefully I can keep up with you.
Oh, please. You're the expert here, remember?
That's true. All right, so where do we start?
Well, I was thinking maybe those stories about the everyday struggles Nigerians are facing. Like there's this article about protests, people are frustrated with the fuel crisis and how expensive everything is.
Yeah, I saw that one. Cost of living is a huge concern right now.
Absolutely. And then there's this other piece talking about government workers needing to find extra jobs just to keep up.
Really?
Yeah, it says they're just not making enough to cover basic expenses.
Wow, that's tough.
It is. And get this, in Kogi State, apparently Yahoo Boys are driving up rent prices.
Yahoo Boys.
Yeah, those internet scammers. Apparently they have so much cash from their schemes that they're outbidding everyone else for apartments.
That's crazy.
Yeah?
But it also speaks to the economic disparity, right? Some people are clearly doing very well, while others are really struggling.
Totally. It's this weird mix of economic optimism from the government, but then this really difficult reality for a lot of people.
Right. It's almost like two different stories happening at the same time.
It is. On one hand, you have President Tinubu talking about this new economic era for Nigeria, pointing to things like less debt and these big reforms he's making.
And his finance minister, Mr. Eden, seems to be on board too, right?
Totally. The article quotes him praising the reforms, saying they were long overdue.
So there's definitely a sense of hope coming from the government.
For sure. But then you have the reality on the ground, and it's not quite matching up yet.
Yeah, it's important to remember that economic change takes time. These reforms might eventually bring positive results, but in the short term, people are feeling the squeeze.
Absolutely. It's like waiting for a seed to grow, right? You have to be patient and trust the process.
Exactly. But that patience can wear thin when you're dealing with real hardship.
For sure. Okay, so we've got this economic roller coaster happening, and then to make things even more interesting, the political scene is pretty wild too.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Atiku Abubakar is still challenging the election results, alleging fraud.
I know, right? And the APC is pushing back hard, while the PDP is basically saying, just wait, the APC is going to crumble in 2027.
It's a lot of back and forth. And then you have Daniel Bwala, Atiku's old aide, claiming that some Northerners in Tinubu's government are stirring up anti-North feelings.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Hard to tell if it's a genuine concern or just political maneuvering.
It definitely adds fuel to the fire, though, especially with the Ondo State governorship election coming up.
Oh, right. Did you see INEC seems pretty confident about making sure things run smoothly this time? They're saying they learned a lot from what happened in Edo State.
Good. Because with all this political tension simmering, a fair election is crucial.
You know what else caught my eye? The arrest of the former Delta State governor, Okowa.
Oh, right, by the EFCC.
Yeah. Apparently it's about mismanaging those derivation funds, the money oil-producing states get.
Ah, I see. So it'll be interesting to see how that case plays out. Could have big implications.
It could. Makes you think about accountability and transparency,
Big time. Okay, so we've talked economics, we've talked politics.
And both are kind of a mess right now.
Well, messy might be an understatement.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, there's always some good news mixed in there, too.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of good news, that story about those miners who were released after those cost of living protests, what a relief.
Yeah, remember all that public outcry? It felt like a real overreach to detain miners, especially with accusations of treason.
I know. But thankfully, it seems President Tinubu stepped in and helped get them released.
Well, that's good to hear. Direct action from the top. Hopefully a sign that he's listening to the people.
Hopefully. Makes you feel a little bit better, right? Like maybe things can change for the better.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. But then on the other hand, there's that article about the new terror group in Sokoto, Lakurawas.
Yeah. That one's a bit unsettling, isn't it? Underscores the security challenges Nigeria is still dealing with.
For sure. But there are efforts to combat these threats, too. The article also mentions the NAF's successful airstrikes against ISWAP.
Right. Those are important victories. We have to acknowledge those efforts, too.
Absolutely. And speaking of positive efforts, how about that initiative to empower 200 young Nigerian women with digital skills?
Oh, that's fantastic. Giving them the tools to succeed in the tech world.
Exactly. Investing in the future. not just for those women, but for the entire nation.
I love that. So even with all the complexities and challenges, there are these bright spots, these moments of hope.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us going, right? The belief that things can get better.
Totally. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've seen the struggles, the economic reforms, the political maneuvering.
And those glimmers of hope, those signs of progress.
It's a lot to take in, but it's just the beginning of our deep dive into Nigeria.
It's amazing how much is happening in Nigeria right now.
Right. It's like we're catching the country at this really crucial moment.
Yeah, with all these big changes and uncertainty swirling around.
Like that economic roller coaster we talked about.
Exactly. Then you layer on top of that all the political drama.
And the social concerns, too. It's a
Yeah.
lot to keep track of.
It really is. So from your perspective, what are the most important takeaways from all these articles?
That's a good question. I guess for me, one thing that really stands out is that sense of Nigeria being at a crossroads.
Crossroads. Yeah, I like that.
Like, on the one hand, you have the government pushing these reforms, talking about a new economic era.
Right. But at the same time, people are struggling, feeling the pinch of the current situation.
Exactly. And that gap, that dissonance, is what I find so fascinating. Like, how do you bridge that?
It's a tough question. And it makes me think about the importance of communication and transparency.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, if the government wants to bring people along on this journey of economic change, they need to be really clear about what they're doing.
Right, like explain the why behind the what.
Exactly. And be honest about the potential challenges, too. People are more likely to be patient if they understand the bigger picture.
That makes a lot of sense because even if these reforms do eventually benefit everyone, if people don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's going to be hard to keep things stable.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the government either. It's about everyone working together. The Sultan of Sokoto's call for unity.
Oh, yeah. Urging Nigerians to support their leaders through prayer rather than criticism.
Right. That message really resonated with me. It's a reminder that we all want the same thing, ultimately, as successful Nigeria.
But sometimes it feels like we forget that, you know? We get caught up in the political back and forth.
I know. It's easy to get bogged down in the negativity, but we need to find ways to bridge those divides, to focus on what unites us.
And what about that story of those miners who were released? That felt like a win for collective action, right?
It did. People came together, raised their voices, and it made a difference.
It shows that we do have power, even in the face of these huge systemic issues.
Absolutely. And it's not just about big protests either. It's about engaging in constructive conversations, holding our leaders accountable, supporting initiatives that promote positive change.
Right, like those young women getting digital skills training. That's the kind of stuff that gives me hope.
Me too. Investing in education, empowering people, that's how you build a stronger future.
Okay, so big picture, we've got a lot going on, but we're also seeing some positive signs.
Exactly. It's complex, but it's not all doom and gloom.
And that's why I love these deep dives. They remind us to look beyond the headlines, to see the nuances.
To see the challenges and the opportunities.
Right. Okay, so speaking of challenges, let's circle back to that economic situation for a minute.
Yeah, that contrast between the government's optimism and the struggles people are facing is still on my mind.
It's hard to reconcile sometimes. Like, President Tinubu's talking about a new economic era, but people are literally protesting the cost of living.
I know. And it's important to acknowledge that those struggles are real.
Absolutely. Like, I get that economic reforms take time to show results, but what about the people who are hurting NOW?
That's a crucial point. Are there measures in place to help those who are most vulnerable?
Yeah, it's like that saying, the operation was a success, but the patient died. You can have a sound economic policy, but if it's causing widespread suffering, something's not right.
Right. And those stories about individual struggles, those remind us that there are real people behind the economic data.
It brings it home, you know? It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet, it's people's lives.
And that's what these deep dives are all about, right? Grappling with those complexities, seeing the human impact.
It's messy, it's challenging, but it's also really important.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me so fascinated by Nigeria. It's this country brimming with potential, but also facing some really deep-rooted issues.
So how do you even begin to address those issues?
Well, it starts with conversations like this one, examining different perspectives, searching for solutions that are both effective and equitable.
And remembering that there are no easy answers.
Right. It's about engaging in that messy, challenging work of building a better future, but not losing sight of the positive developments either.
Like that Christmas festival in Delta. A little bit of holiday cheer amidst all the serious stuff.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
reminder that even in tough times, there's always room for joy and celebration. And that resilience, that ability to find hope even in the face of adversity. And that's what I find so inspiring about Nigeria.
Me too. It's like, yeah, things are complicated, but there's still so much to celebrate, so much to look forward to.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so rewarding. We're not just learning about the challenges, we're also exploring the solutions, the possibilities.
And recognizing the agency of the Nigerian people. They're not just passive bystanders, they're actively shaping their own destiny.
Well said. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. What will you do with the knowledge you've gained today?
That's a big question to end on. What will WE do?
Right.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed after all this,
I get it. All these challenges facing Nigeria, it can feel like a lot.
It does. But we don't have to solve everything at once, right?
Exactly. Small steps can still make a difference.
So what are some of those small steps? What can people actually do?
Well, for starters, keep learning.
Okay, yeah. Keep diving deeper into these issues.
Exactly. Don't just take our word for it.
Read those articles. Explore a different perspective.
Right. The more informed we are, the better.
And then what? Talk about it.
Exactly. Share what you're learning with others.
Start conversations, even if they're tough.
Those are often the most important conversations to have.
And then, are there ways to support people on the ground in Nigeria?
Absolutely. So many organizations doing amazing work.
Oh, yeah. Focused on all sorts of things.
Economic empowerment, education, promoting peace.
So much need, but also so much potential.
Right. And you don't have to donate a ton of money either.
Yeah, there are other ways to help, right?
Volunteer your time, share your skills, use your voice to amplify their efforts.
It's all about finding what feels meaningful for you.
Exactly. And amidst all of that, don't forget the power of hope.
Hope, yeah. That's what keeps us going.
Remember those stories we discussed? Those moments of resilience?
Oh, yeah. Like those miners being released, those young women getting digital skills.
Right. And the Christmas festival in Delta. Signs that even in tough times, there's still joy, there's still progress.
It's inspiring, right, to see that spirit, that determination.
It is. It reminds us that Nigeria's story is still being written.
And we all have a role to play in that story.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What impact do you want to make?
Wow. That's a powerful question to end on. This deep dive has given us so much to think about, so much to act on.
And so much hope for the future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
And to everyone listening, remember, knowledge is just the beginning. Take what you've learned today and turn it into something meaningful. Keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep.